Hello, welcome. I'm Amanda. I'm at Battleground Games and Hobbies in Abington, Massachusetts. And I'm gonna be painting some Fallout figures because why not? Battleground is a game and hobby store in the greater Boston area. We have 3 locations, one here in Abington, one further south in Norton, and one up north of Boston in Saugus. Abington happens to be close to where I live and also has this convenient loft above the rest of the store where we can stream. So the streaming rig lives here and it's kind of a pain to move. So here we are. So I am a huge Fallout fan, really big Fallout fan. So I was very, very excited when there were 2 Fallout games announced, a board game and a miniature like skirmish war game. And I painted, as soon as the board game, the Fantasy Flight game came out, I painted it. I have my own copy at home. I've also painted a second set of figures that are going to be raffled off here at Battleground during our Extra Life gaming marathon, 25 hours of gaming. That is next weekend. Not a week from today, but a week from tomorrow at noon Eastern. We are going to be starting our 25-hour marathon for raising money for Extra Life, which benefits the Children's Miracle Network hospitals, specifically here in the Boston area, the Boston Children's Hospital. It's 25 hours because next weekend is daylight savings. So at like 2 a.m., it becomes 2 a.m. again, which is very disconcerting when you're sleep deprived. So we're going to be doing that, but we also have a bunch of raffles. We have a really awesome Warhammer figure that my friend Allie is painting. She's got an airbrush. She's an amazing painter. So yeah, I've seen some pictures of how that's coming out, and it looks gorgeous. I've got the Fallout figures for the board game. I have a set of those, all 5 of the base game figures and the game. They all come together. They are varnished, they're done, and they're sitting in pick foam in the box right now, ready for you to enter a raffle for them. We've got some other awesome stuff. We've got a Wormwood, I think, a Wormwood Hero Vault. I don't know what wood it is, but I believe that is coming in at some point in the near future. We've also got a few other things lined up. As always, a date with Derek, who is the owner of the store. Very good prize, very choice. It was a good date. My husband and I won that a couple of years ago. It was a very good date. We went to see Big Hero 6. It was great. So yeah, I did that. Finished that last week. I had put these on pause so that I could do that and have it ready prior to Extra Life happening. I didn't really want to be down to the wire of finishing up the painting the hour before the event officially started. But that means that now that I'm done with that, I can go back to Wasteland Warfare, which is the miniature game instead of the board game. And this is put out by Modifius. It is like I said, a skirmish-based miniatures game. It's a wargaming sort of deal. What I really like about the way this one is set up is that it is possible to play solo. You can play by yourself against the game. It has a way of having the game run your enemy for you, which is really neat. And it also has a bunch of expansions. Today I am painting the parts from the starter box. There's a whole bunch of stuff in this, but it's the starter box. Was that right side up? No, it wasn't. It wasn't even. Starter box. So I'm painting the figures for that. The starter box comes with an enormous amount of stuff, which is really cool. The starter box comes with a bunch of survivors. So you've got a number of various survivory types. As you can see, I started working on one of these. I started working on the Soul Survivor here. This is the Nora Soul Survivor. The expansions do have other possibilities. Nate's in there. I never use the names. I always change my name. I changed it to Tesla in one of my more recent playthroughs. I was very pleased that that's in the list of things that Codsworth can say. So he will greet you as Miss Tesla. Or Mr. Tesla, I guess. But I was Miss Tesla. We got someone in a suit of power armor here. Being a badass. So that's your survivors. The other thing that the survivors come with is dog meat. It's dog meat. Look, he's awesome. Dog meat is fully painted at this point. I finished him a couple of weeks ago. Very pleased with how he came out. German Shepherds, not easy to paint, as it turns out. Their coats are really interesting because they've got this sort of dark saddle over their backs, and it blends into their shoulders, and then their faces have that dark muzzle, but it doesn't stay dark. It's got this sort of brownish reddishness, and then they've got white that comes in their bellies and their hocks, and underside of the tail. So yeah, it was he's tiny. He's a very small figure, and having to do all that blending and stuff was really cool challenge. I enjoyed it. So yeah, dog meat's done, and on the other side of that coin, we have some other doggos. We've got the mutant hounds, so they are done. There's a couple little blops that I was a little heavy-handed on, like this bit right here and this bit right here. I was a little heavier-handed with, I was trying to make like sort of bruisey-looking bits, and it just didn't blend. So I need to blend those a little better on him. This boy is done. He is done. I am not going to be doing the bases on these. I am fully capable of doing the bases on these, but my husband has asked if he can do the bases on them. If I'm doing the figures, if he can do the bases, and I'm more than happy to collaborate with him on that. So yeah, so those doggos are mostly done. I need to do a few little touch-ups on this boy here. The other one that's mostly done, but that I'm going to be doing a little bit of detail work on today, is our friend here. Too big to fit on the camera all at once. This is a Deathclaw, and the Deathclaw is mostly done. Large portion of it is done. The trick with the Deathclaw is, when I went looking, because mostly when you see Deathclaws that aren't like, thank you, Deathclaws that aren't like albino Deathclaws or glowing Deathclaws and, you know, the super special ones, your basic run-of-the-mill Deathclaw does have a look to it. Obviously there are variations, because there are the albino ones, there are the matriarchs, there are a whole bunch of different variations on the Deathclaws, just like any of the creatures that you're going to encounter in Fallout. But I'm not normally just sightseeing, like I'm not like a bird watcher for Deathclaws being like, look at that lovely specimen out there. No, I'm like shooting it in the head. Actually, in the belly. The belly's the best way to go. Get that penetrator perk and just always go for the belly. One shot. But I'm not normally looking at them for like detail when I'm playing the game. I'm not normally going, gee, I wonder what color a Deathclaw actually is. I'm not really thinking about that. So when I went to look up Deathclaws and be like, what do they actually look like? Like, I know what the shape of them are, but what coloring? Like, what are they actually, like, what's the texturing on them and everything? What I discovered is that they are very dark on the back. They're sort of a black and gray, but that plating that they have, this scale, you know, these scaly plates that they're covered in, well, that is sort of a grayish black. Like it's a black with gray, and yeah, it's a dark color. It has a light underbelly. And that light underbelly, which is the exposed part under here, can be seen in joints and between scales. This is tricky, because normally when I paint a figure, The dark parts that you want to fill in are in those crevices. You want shadow in there. You want it to look shaded and deep. So you highlight up and wash it and then highlight it up more. You build up the color from dark to light. That is not the case on the Deathclaw. The Deathclaw is dark on top, but has little bits of lightness showing through the plates. I'm actually, like, this bit right here, right on here, I'm really pleased with how that came out. This right here is 100% the way I want it to look. Right there. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to maintain that, like, this bit right up here. This is so good. That's exactly what I wanted. It did not work out quite that well in some of the other areas. So what I'm going to be doing is going back in with some lighter colors and touching up those little crevices. And then bits like the spines on the back and the horns and some of the other, like, darker places. None of this is a black. A lot of this is a black with a gray mixed in to lighten it just a tiny bit. So I'm actually going to be hitting it with black to make it real dark. So I'll be working on that. That's going to be a later thing. I do want to keep the claws light. I'm really happy with how the hands came out. The hands are pretty much exactly where I wanted them to be. The chest and the belly and the underside of the tail, the insides of the thighs are pretty much exactly what I wanted that to look like. The throat, the mouth, the face, a lot of that is what I wanted. So it's a lot of, like, trying to hit those little crevices to make sure that you see that this is plating, that this is scales on top of a less armored skin underneath. That there is a vulnerability under there. It's getting under there that's hard. So we're going to work on that. We're going to do some touch-ups on our big doggos, and we're going to play with some super mutants. It's super mutant time. So the super mutants are the other faction that comes in the box, obviously from the mutant towns. So we have, they actually come with, so there's a set of cards for, like, each of the characters that you play. So we have, like, super mutant brute, mutant hound, aviator, because he's got the aviator goggles on his helmet, which is really funny. So yeah, the thing is, this is a Brotherhood of Steel aspirant, and you can see he's got the Brotherhood of Steel logo on his chest, which is really interesting. I may have to be real careful about painting that. We'll see if that happens. I have a very tiny brush, and we'll see if I can make that work. If you look up super mutants in the wiki, if you actually, like, go looking for what they are, a lot of the armor that they're wearing is legitimately from the game. So, for example, this gentleman right here, who has this chest plate with a little hole in it right there, and he's got these sort of armor panels, like these shoulder panels and stuff. That is a super mutant skirmisher. What I actually find interesting is the skirt that he's got on, this sort of loinclothy skirt with all these armor panels on it. While that is also seriously right out of the game, it's a very similar mold to the Fantasy Flight board game, Super Mutant. I am also going to be eventually painting the, what's it called? The Fantasy Flight Fallout New California game, which is technically out now, but we won't be getting it in the store for another couple of days. Like this coming Monday or Tuesday or something like that. So yeah, I don't have a firm date on that because that we're like relying on distributors to get it to us, but it's coming. It's officially out, but they have like an exclusive that is not Battleground because we only have 3 stores. So this dude right here, this gentleman, he is an absolute unit. And he's got this sort of shield on his arm, and he's also got this loinclothy thing going on. He's got a whole lot of leg armor happening here. And then he's not got a shirt on. His legs are his important bits, apparently. He's a super mutant brute. And this helmet is legit what he's wearing in the game. So I think that's pretty cool. And our aviator friend, he is not 100% from any specific armor. I don't really see this particular armor. There is a super mutant who is wearing the aviator helmet, but he's not wearing that armor. His armor looks a lot more, the leg armor is a lot more like this dude's, but he's not wearing a skirt. He's got a whole like chest panel going on, and it's not like what he has on here. It's a super mutant master. I know it's not him. That's a behemoth. I know it's not him. But of course, these are only like examples. They're not all the super mutants you're going to come across. And this guy has a bunch of skulls hanging off his armor. He's got a bunch of human skulls. He seems fun. He seems like a nice guy. I want to be his buddy. So yeah, I did a base coat for their skin a couple of weeks ago when I was still working on these before I started on the Fantasy Flight game. I want Swan. I want a Swan figure. That's what I want. So yeah, I'm just going to be using these photos. These are from the Fallout Wiki. They're a good way to get sort of a feel for the colors that are used for a lot of these. For what types of armor you're going to see a lot. We don't have a super mutant suicider in here, which I'm okay with. I'm fine with that. I don't like them. We're gonna, I think, start with this boy here. His armor is not incredibly complex. His gun is more complex than his armor is, I'll be honest. And this is also one of the nice... So this is the starter pack. The starter pack comes with a bunch of these figures, and they're plastic. They're plastic figures. They come all put together. You can open this box, take the figures out, and start playing right away. You don't need to paint these. I am, but you don't need to. The thing is, a figure like this, you can see he's holding that gun very close to his chest. That's all one piece. That's one chunk right here. That chest, that arm, the gun. This is all one piece. And they're different colors. The green, you can see the trace of bright green. I hadn't fully primed the bottom of the figures. They are bright green. Oh, there's one more figure. Because we did the pre-order. Alien. It's the Mothership Zeta alien, which you can also see there's a UFO crash in Fallout 4 that you can find near Openland Station. And you can find an alien from there, get an alien blaster. There's also like all the alien figures, like animatronics in Nuka World, look like these aliens. So if you do the Nuka Galaxy ride, I think it's Nuka Galaxy, which is like the indoor roller coaster, there's an alien invasion scenario that like your car goes through. If you're just walking through the thing, you can just walk through it. It does have a sentry bot that you can farm for fusion cores, which is nice. But those aliens, the animatronic aliens, look like the actual aliens that you can encounter from Mothership Zeta or in the UFO crash. But yeah, so we got an alien figure. Comes with his own little card. There he is. Alien! So yeah, he's got his own stats. He's got his own little faction-y sort of stuff, I would assume. Anyway, yeah, so we'll paint him. I'm saving him. I'm saving him for last. So we're going to play with some super mutants. So let's get some paint, figure out what we're doing. So his armor, super mutants, they're not like the Brotherhood of Steel where like they spend a lot of time taking care of their armor and like sitting there making sure everything's polished up and fancy. No, these guys are just strapping metal chunks to their chests and hoping that they stop bullets. They're rusty, they're dirty. So what I'm hoping to do, looking at this armor, a lot of it is like probably stuff that was taken off various bots, various vehicles and equipment found around the wasteland that they've just busted up and hammered into shape to fit on them. They're not going for fanciness here. They're not going for polish. They're not wanting to look cohesive. So things are rusty, things are dirty. There's bits of paint maybe left, but a lot of this is rusty metallic. So we're gonna stick with that. We're gonna run with that. I've got some metallics. I've got my trusty rust red, rust brown, but let's face it, that's red. I do dry brushing with that after the fact. We're also gonna get this gold, this antique gold. What I like about the antique gold is that I can mix it with a steel and get a sort of mid-metallic that's not true silver, but not brown. And it gives it sort of an aged, rusted steel look. It's a nice meld. It's that weathered metallic where, yeah, this is corroded and there is rust on this, but you're never scraping that rust off. But it's not like big flecks of rust. It's just stained, but it's still a metallic to a point. And we're gonna probably do some like paint bits on it. I've got some like teal paint, sort of. He's got a gray skirt. You can see I actually already did the gray on his kilt, super mutant kilt. So we're gonna go ahead and use, I think, probably the same color on that. I think that was this. We'll go with this. A lot of fabric noise on my... you know what? There's a... I'll move this over here. My shirt has like a... just the way it hangs. It has a little fold. I don't know. I think the way that my mic is clipping onto my shirt, I don't think there's a way to avoid that completely because it's always hitting shirt. I don't really have another way to do it without just clipping it, like folding my shirt, and that would kind of destroy my shirt. So Not really interested in destroying my shirt for the sake of a mic. This is awkward. I feel like it's just going to end up bumping my neck a lot. Yeah, I don't know how to solve this, Andy. Every way that I redo it, it ends up either bumping into fabric or into my neck. So I don't really want that. That might work. Because we want it dirty, so we want like a dark color to it. Is that better, Andy? Alright. We're going to do his skirt first. So Fallout 76 has had some beta. I've seen some grousing over the beta and how Bethesda has chosen to do it. I can't say it's my personal favorite way of handling a beta, necessarily. I don't think it's what most people think of a beta as being, which is part of the problem. It's a stress test. It's not so much a beta. And I think when people are like, oh, there's an open beta, there's a certain expectation. You gotta be careful about the terminology you use. I know it was cute to do like, it's the break everything something. But I know like the B and the E were break everything. And I get it. That's cute. That's real cute. The thing about that is that that gives a certain expectation. Like, okay, a few years back at my workplace, we were having a summer reading kickoff event, and my boss called it a carnival. And then we realized that there was nothing carnival-like about it, and there was going to be a certain we ended up having to like make the event a lot different than it had originally been pitched to us as staff, because we realized that once we started publicizing it as a carnival, there would be a certain level of expectation on what was involved in the program that was not what we had really planned on offering. So when you call something a beta, when you use a term that has an existing connotation, you have to sort of think about what the expectations of your players or your participants are going to be for that term. So when you say this is an open beta, I mean, not open, and you had to pre-order the game to be in on it. Which was, again, that's not what people assume a beta means. I don't have a problem with it being what it was, but I do think calling it a beta was maybe not the wisest choice. Because that's not what people assume a beta means. And if you go saying it's one thing, and then it doesn't meet the expectations that people, the reasonable expectations that people have of what that thing means because it has an existing meaning. That's my point. Yeah, it's not a beta. It's a stress test for the servers. It's probably a way for them to sort of see how people are doing some things and get an idea of like behavior patterns and stuff. with people who aren't game designers. Because, I mean, they've all been playing it, but they're the people who are involved in making it. Also, how's it going? Haven't seen you in a bit. Yeah, if it isn't ready by now, they have bigger problems. It's not a beta. If you're going to call something a beta, if you're going to use a term, and then that term is not accurate to what people are expecting out of it because that term has certain meanings, people are going to grouse about it. And I understand that. I don't blame people for grousing about it not being a beta, because by the definition of that term as used in the industry and by players and the like, it isn't a beta. Like I said, yeah. This was a preview. It's a soft open, is what it is. This is a use an early access means to build hype for the game. Hopefully. And it was a stress test for the servers to see if they actually could handle certain things. That's why I'm sure they're limiting it to certain time periods. It's because they want to get everyone in all at the same time to see what happens. And I'm sure there were some behavior, checks. Okay, people are doing this way. Good to know. We'll be alert for that. But it's not a beta. And so I understand why people are a little salty about that. I don't think it needs, massive amounts of whining and moaning, but I do think they probably could have saved themselves some agita from players by calling it something else. Call it a stress test. Call it a preview. Call it a soft open. But once you call it a beta, there are certain expectations of what that means. Save yourself a lot of headache by not calling something a name that isn't applicable. Yeah, but they could have done that by saying it's a preview. They could have said that and said, whatever you get in the preview isn't going to transfer. They could have. There are a lot of ways that they could have done that, and had in the TOS and the agreement for the preview that, whatever you do in the preview isn't going to carry over. There were a lot of ways they could have handled it, and I think beta, someone came up with a funny acronym. Someone came up with a funny way for beta to mean a thing that sounds good in Fallout jargon, and they ran with it. Like I said earlier, my boss was like, "Oh, we'll call it a carnival," and she got really married to this idea of calling this particular event a carnival, and to the point where it was easier to make the event bigger than it was to stop calling it a carnival, even though it in its inception had absolutely nothing to do with a carnival. We didn't have balloons, we weren't going to have clowns, we weren't going to have a horse. There was nothing carnival-like about it. Lawn games and a musician. That's a party. But it was easier to, we had already advertised it. It was easier to just adjust the program. Yeah, but I think there's a certain expectation that comes from beta that is not the case here. And I think when people hear the word beta, they don't necessarily, most people I don't think of that as a preview. There's a certain expectation of both scheduling, as you have said, and also of polish or lack thereof, and of it not being you play on our schedule necessarily. And there was a lot of moaning about, like, oh, why should I have to pre-order the game in order to, you know, potentially get into the beta? I mean, I get it. But yeah, there a lot of the complaints that I was seeing online boiled down to, I don't want to have to pre-order the game in order to get a first look at it. Yeah. I'm just saying, they could have saved themselves some bitching and moaning from fans if they had called it something else. I don't have a problem with them giving people sort of a first glimpse at the game. Would have been nice if it was earlier. But even then, I think they probably could have saved themselves some grief. Then again, I don't know. Video game fans are all... Give me any group of video game fans of any game and give them a new game in the series that they love, and they will find a whole host of things to complain about, no matter what that game is like. It's just how it is. This is not the color I thought it was, and I'm gonna wait. What color was it that I used then? The heck? It was this color. That's fine. I picked the wrong bottle out. That's okay. You know what? That's fine. We'll use this under the armor. I don't really want to use this under the armor. Oops. I just have so many options. Too many options. Oh no. Knocking over bottles. Yeah, that's a bright metallic. That's a whole lot of brightness. It's okay. Everything's gonna be fine. So we're gonna end up dirtying this up and differentiating between pieces. This is just an initial coat to get some of that metallic. And this is what I meant by wanting, like, liking the mid-metallic that's not silver, but not like a gold. This brush is almost dead. I should give up with it. I should only be using it on, to slap on like the most general of coats. Alright, new brush, you're up. few little places there my primer did not cover. Oh well. Too late now. Welcome back. That happens. I'm just doing a metallic coat over a lot of their stuff because this is going to all get weathered and sort of given various other overcoats. I want to give it all sort of a dirty metallic start to it. Awkward angle. So that's why I'm looking forward to doing these same figures, but be able to do their arms separate from their bodies. As these awkward angles get a lot less awkward. I don't need this to be perfect. Like I said, I'm gonna end up going over this. I just want it to have some of this metallic underneath all of the weathering that will happen eventually. It's fine. I hate this bottle. Hey Andy, if you're watching and listening, I have Miracle of Sound playing up here, obviously. Is You're So Vain playing in the gym next door? That's an odd choice. No, apparently the chatbot is not working.
Let's see if we can figure out why.
No, this bottle is well and truly borked, so. Not the best quality brush ever.
Do you have chat up on your computer there?
I do. Yeah. You want me to try
Yeah, try
a command?
extra life.
Nope. Chatbot's not working, which is annoying.
I can get it working before extra life because
We need it. Yeah.
this is online. Definitely online.
No, I can see it. Yes, Andy is the one who runs a lot of the tech stuff on our streams. He is right there right now, trying to figure out why the chatbot isn't working. It's cute, buddy.
It's nice box.
Not really in the mood to be joking about unions. I just had to have a union meeting at work, so. We're not hosting anything. Yeah, I am a union rep at my workplace. So. No worries. No reason for you to be or. I just get a little touchy about it because there are a lot of people who are very, very anti-union out there right now, and a well-timed union joke can be funny, but there's been an erosion of union sort of faith in unions. I don't even talk about it online that much, so you wouldn't even be able to know, even if you were stalking me, because I don't talk about it a ton outside of work. But I do care a great deal about unions and workers' rights, and I get very angry about it. And I'm painting today to not be angry about the world, because there's a lot for me to be angry about. So. Yeah, it's just being a butt today. Yeah. I just get sensitive about it.
But it also says stream offline. I have to do this later.
Yeah, when I'm not live. How about? None of this is looking the way I want it to, and I'm feeling very cranky. I'm gonna put a wash on this and see if it makes me feel any better about it. Probably won't. I'm not thrilled with this right now. I'm having a cranky day, just in general. I have a feeling I'm going to be doing a lot of layers of wash and weathering and dry brushing and the like on this guy. On all of the super mutants. Fortunately, they've got a lot of really good texture. Or I could throw it on the floor, you know, whatever. Right on the floor. I have a feeling this is not a good day for me. I was thinking, you know, I've been away from these for a while because I was painting the other set. And yeah, great. The floor is pristine up here. Nice. Well, that's awesome. Yeah, it looks better. It looks more like I'll be able to get it to look the way I want it to. I'm just not thrilled with it right now. You know what? I'm gonna play with this Deathclaw. I'm really angry at him. I'm gonna get my itty bitty brush. It's time for a very, very tiny brush. Not my smallest brush, but definitely a tiny brush. That's such an awesome idea. So if anyone's watching this on YouTube and doesn't see the chat, one of our regular chatters, Thunder Speaks, has a really great charity idea where he's going to be running RPGs for veterans returning from deployment, sort of like therapy groups where you get to work out issues as someone else. I think that's such a good idea. It's such a good idea to have like both a way to work out some issues and a way to take your mind off some things. Like it can serve dual purposes. That's such a good idea. Going to the Directors Convention in Washington, D.C. for the Veterans Centers. That's so good. That's super cool. I think that's awesome. Good luck with that, man. That is really cool. Yeah, this needs to come down a bit. RPGs as a coping mechanism for PTSD. Yeah, I think that's awesome. That's such a good idea. And the idea of like being able to share that with other people, I think is so good. I think, yeah, I think that's so good. I'm really happy that you're doing that and that you're proposing it. I hope the proposal goes well, man. Derek's gonna help out. That's super cool. Yeah. That would be super awesome. Yeah. I think it's such a good idea because there's so much you can do with RPGs that you have a lot of options when it comes to setting and character and making sure that like you have just the right thing for the people who are involved. I think this is such a good idea. I love it. Through us? Yeah. I'm on board. Talk to Andy, because I think that's a great idea. the Fantasy Flight Star Wars system. Nice. Really nice. I'm just thinking, like, if it takes off, you've got so many options to tinker with. That's awesome. I think Fate would also be really good for that. The Fate core system would be really good for that too. Because it also allows you a lot of sort of narrative control of your character and the various things that make them really cool and their flaws. And that plays into who their character is and like what their character can do. And I really enjoyed that about Fate. I haven't played the Star Wars, the Fantasy Flight Star Wars game. I'm already really liking what this is doing to lighten this up. Okay, I'm happier with this than I was with the Super Mutant. I'm angry with the Super Mutants right now. I guess it's par for the course for me right now. Yeah, I mean that totally makes sense, and there's some overlap. I mean, when you're talking about veterans coming back from deployment, there is overlap with traumatic brain injury and PTSD. Like they don't preclude, one doesn't preclude the other. They can be concurrent, or you can have both, but in different people. I think this is such a good idea. I love it. I think there's definitely some misconceptions about like mental illness that come from a thinking of like if it's quote unquote all in your head, it's something you can will away and that you can think away. And that's not the case, because frequently like things like PTSD and anxiety, they have real biological meaning, like real biological roots that are based in your brain. So I think sometimes there's this feeling of it being something in your brain has to have like a physical cause, such as an injury, and that's not always the case. Sometimes that injury is trauma, is experience-based rather than just a physical cause. That's so good. That's so good. I have my fingers crossed for you, man, because that sounds really good, and I am on board with you doing that and with some streaming of it and getting the word out there. It has improved. It like, I think that's really awesome. I'm still cranky, but that's really awesome, and I'm glad to hear that you're doing it. I'm glad to hear that it's getting some traction in terms of like people paying attention to it and hopefully participating. I'm cranky about like the world at large, and there's not really much to be done about that. The world is a cranky place. I found out today that apparently some jackass in Florida checked out all of the LGBTQIA books in the children's section of his local public library, and filmed himself burning them. And I'm really intensely angry about that. Yeah, really angry about that. Like, incandescent with rage about it. And I work in a library. There's only so much that you can do about that. Like, on one hand, you could be like, oh yeah, we're gonna make people you can't even do anything about it. You can charge them with destruction of library property. Like, you can charge them with destruction of property. And if it was a lot of books, like, depending on how much the sticker value of those books were, and what local thresholds for various levels of, like, theft are. Like, grand theft has a certain definition of, like, value. It's really awesome. Not the guy burning the stuff. I mean, your idea. And yeah, I can understand, coming up with an idea and then having it go from, how do I make this happen, to, oh my God, everyone knows about it and is expecting things out of me. That, I understand that can be potentially terrifying. Yeah. I told Andy a little ways back. I was like, oh. When I saw the first Avengers movie, and there was that line that's my secret, I'm always angry. I was like, oh, hi, it's me, always angry. Yeah. I don't have, like, PTSD myself. I have had some relatively traumatic experiences in my life, but I don't think I meet the diagnostic criteria for PTSD. I talked about one of those traumatic experiences a couple of weeks ago on stream, and then went home and second-guessed the fact that I had even talked about it at all. I was like, oh man, like, I talked about that on the stream for the store, and not like I can do anything about it. It's like way in the past. Yeah, I have I definitely have the fight, flight, or freeze thing, but I have been in situations where, like, freeze has been sort of my default, and I realized at work that if it's myself that's at risk, a lot of times flight will be my choice, and then when if someone else is at risk, I go to fight. There's a certain patron we have who has been a bully towards some of my staff members, some of the, like, paraprofessionals who work at my branch when I'm not there. They fill in when I'm out. And he doesn't do this when I'm around because he knows I wouldn't stand for it. But when I'm not there, he has a tendency to be a racist bully. And it makes me so angry. because he knows that he can't get away with it when I'm there. He knows if I'm there, I will not stand for that. I won't let him get away with it. And he knows that if I'm not there, there are staff members that will freeze up and not say anything against him. And it makes me so angry, so mad. Because if I'm there, he's generally innocuous. I mean, he's annoying, but he's not usually outright offensive, which is almost even worse, because then you know that it's not that he's being inappropriate because he doesn't know any better. You know that he knows better and he's doing it on purpose. You know, like when someone's just always inappropriate, you're like, they just don't get social norms. And I feel bad, but they don't get it. But since he knows to control himself when I'm around, I know dang well that he knows what's acceptable, and he's controlling himself when someone who will take him to task for it is around. And when that person isn't around, he feels comfortable being a jerkwad. And it makes me really angry, because I know if I was around when he did that, I would take him to task for it, and I would say something, and he would face consequences. And I know that because he does it when I'm not around, and he takes advantage of there being like new people who don't like stand up for themselves as well. I found out after the fact at one point I had been on vacation, and I came back from vacation, and one of my coworkers, one of the staff, told me about a situation that had happened, and I saw red. Like I didn't ever think of that phrase being something that like is a literal thing. It is. It's just so angry. I hate people who take advantage of folks who don't know if they're in a position to stand up for themselves. I work at the Quincy Library. I work at the smallest branch of the library in Quincy. You are unlikely to have popped in. Like I said, if I'm there, he holds his peace, because he knows I won't put up with it. It's just frustrating. I called him on something the other day. He was misbehaving the other day. Not in a like racist, bully way, but he was doing something that he shouldn't be doing. And I was like, hey, don't do that. And I don't think he expected me to call him out on that. I think he thought that like I would call him out on saying hateful things, not like breaking a rule. A minor rule, but still. I don't want him getting away with anything. I think that has a lot more texture than it had, just adding some of this gray. I was bullied as a kid, and I wasn't a fighter. I was a runner. I didn't really know how to handle that. All right, off the topic of bullying and jerks, how do you think he's looking? Yeah. That sucks, man. Off that topic, though, how do you feel my Deathclaw here is looking? Yeah, I went in with a dark gray, with a stone gray to get some. Yeah. There were very few kids in my neighborhood when I was a kid. And I was the only one in my neighborhood who didn't go to school with everyone else. to a private school in the next town over. I did not go to the local public school, and that set me apart, but it also meant that I didn't have to worry about being targeted at school for things that happened in my neighborhood. You like this game? Deathclaws are supposed to be like that dark gray on the back, but you're supposed to be able to see that they have a sort of lighter flesh underneath. Yeah. I don't like bullies. But yeah, my reaction to finding out that this guy had been a jerk to the staff who were there covering for me was to be like, he did what? He what? You don't mess with my staff. You don't mess with the people that I'm in charge of. You don't mess with the people that I'm responsible for. So I have flat out told everyone who covers at my branch, if someone messes with you while you are at this branch, whether I am on my lunch break or not, if I'm not there that day, email me and tell me about it so that I can deal with it as soon as I get back. And if I'm there but I'm just like on my break or I'm not in the building at the moment, tell me as soon as I get back. Or if I'm on my break but I'm in the building, tell me right away. If I didn't see it happening, if I didn't notice it happening because I like had headphones on or something, tell me right away. I want to know so I can deal with it because I'm in charge. It's my responsibility to make sure that like people don't give you shit. I spent too long in my life being bullied and not knowing how to, like, stand up for myself. To put up with it as an adult. As an adult, I realized, hey, wait, I can say something about that. It's my responsibility to say something about that. I was recently watching, I don't know, Matt, if you have ever watched any of the Critical Role stuff, but they've been doing a series of shows called Between the Sheets, where you meet the various voice actors who participate in the group, who are like the core members of the group. And they just did dang, man. Have you ever seen actually it reminds me of something kind of funny, just in a it was meant to be funny way. Have you ever seen Whose Line Is It Anyway? And they do scenes from a hat, and one of the scenes from a hat was the best way to start a fight. And one of the guys walks into the middle and goes, hey, want to fight? There you go. Ended that one. He found the best way to start a fight. But yeah, they recently did an interview with Marisha Ray, who is their creative director and also one of the players. And she talked about a very specific traumatic incident in her life and how she has dealt with that over the years. And she talked about how her characters in the games have always had sort of their detractors. People who've sort of seen her characters as not being as good as some of the others, and so she's always got like people complaining about stuff. Yeah, and she talked about. Okay, so you've seen it. I thought it was a rough one to watch, but so good. But her comments about how when there are people complaining about her characters on forums and on Twitter and stuff, you know, it's very easy to say, don't engage with the haters, don't feed the trolls. And her comment about how she doesn't fight the trolls for herself, she's doing just fine. She's fighting them for the people who are watching. That no, you don't get to make someone feel unwelcome. By talking about girls playing D&D as if they shouldn't be, or liking that character. That she'll fight not necessarily for herself, but for the sake of the people watching. And I already really liked her. I already thought she was pretty awesome. That gave me such enormous respect for her. Just massive amounts of respect for her. Yeah. I have a couple of those. I think there's some stuff in my own background that leads to me having some very strong feelings about certain games that I've played. I was thinking the other day, we played a game called The Captain is Dead Lockdown the other night. And I felt helpless in that game. There were whole chunks of that game where I was like, we're going to lose, we're going to die, and there's nothing my character can do about it. There's like absolutely nothing I can do. And I was thinking about that. I was thinking, what is it that really bothered me about that? What was it that really hit me hard about that? And I realized it was that feeling of helplessness, that feeling of being unable to affect the outcome, that you can struggle and struggle and struggle, and it's going to amount to a grand total of jack plus shit. And I hate that. I hate it. I hate feeling useless. I hate feeling helpless. I hate sort of struggling in the face of such an enormous oppressive thing that you can't get free. Yeah. Yeah, I feel you, man. This is definitely looking more the way I had in mind when I started painting it, which is really good. Yeah. I was a nerd through and through. I was small, I was unathletic, and I was meek for the most part. When Marisha was talking about having like put up with it and put up with it and put up with it and put up with it through that year in college, and she like kept doing her stuff and threw herself into all of the other things, and was still being harassed, and just snapped that one day. That was me. That is 100% me. That like put up with it, put up with it, put up with it, and then 0 to like 120 in a matter of seconds. That's me. Which I think would always freak people out, because I would go from like being like just sitting there taking it to whoa, you know, where did that come from? I could hit that very fast, but it took a long time to get there. But once it got there, it was like snap. One incident stands out for you? I can think of a couple for me. There's one where I told a guy who had hit his girlfriend. I had never said boo to this guy. Like, we didn't run in the same circles. We had never spoken. We didn't have any classes together. And I just, like, blurted out a confrontation out of nowhere while I was waiting in my friend's dorm lobby for when my friends dragged me out of the lobby. She was like, "Oh my God, you can't just say stuff like that." I don't care. He hits his girlfriend. Oh. You don't take someone's glasses. That's not okay. Fucking dangerous. God, I hate bullies. I hate bullies. Yeah, no, I'd be a monster if I saw that happen. I mean, I don't advocate violence against children, even by other children, but yeah, I would have been a monster. think all the texturing in that is where I want it to be. That's good. That's awesome. Like, not like awesome, but I'm glad. I'm sorry it had to happen. I hate bullies. I hate bullies. That's not really what I want. Yeah. I mean, especially as a kid, you're like, I did the right thing. You know? Alright, I think all the touch-ups on that are done. Yeah, they would be. Yeah. I don't like bullies. And now that I'm in a position where I'm in charge of a certain amount, and I have a responsibility like that, like an official, not just a, like, as a good person, but officially speaking, this is my job. I can tell you right now, I take that intensely seriously. Damn right. I just feel bad that, like, it had to get to that point. It had to go there in order for that to be the case. You know? Yeah. Like, that's what I mean. Like, it you look at it and you go, yeah, I was that angry. Yeah. I'm glad you were okay. I'm glad, like, you didn't get hurt. I'm glad you were able to help the other kid. I'm sorry that happened, though, man. It's rough. Yeah. I mean, I'm not even saying, like, hurt, like, I'm glad, like, we were able to do it without a ton of repercussions, because it did help another kid. But yeah, that's rough. That's hard. Yeah. I just don't, the necessity makes me so sad. You know? Yeah, RPGs are so good for so much. I'm really glad you had them. And I love that you're like gonna be sharing them with more people who need that. Yeah, I mean, take a breath. Take a deep breath. That's how I felt like 2 weeks ago when I was talking about some stuff that had gone down in high school for me. Like, I finished talking about it, I was like, oh man, can't believe I talked about that. Yeah. Just recounting that sort of stuff can be so incredibly emotional and hard. I'm gonna do Andy's coming up the stairs. He's gonna change the trash bag.
So how are folks coming?
I'm angry at the super mutants. They're not looking the way I want them to look, so I'm punishing them by not touching them right now.
Okay, that's fine.
Instead, I'm working on my Deathclaw, who is looking a lot more like what I want. Star Wars therapy sounds awesome. I love it. I'm into it.
Use the Force.
Yeah. We've been talking about bullies and how we hate them and the sorts of bullshit that, you know, happens. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I heard that. Shock of shocks. You'd like to stream the games as test runs? I think that would be awesome. I think as long as the people who are like who are doing it, as long as the people who are involved are cool with streaming it and putting it out there in the world, then I'm totally on board with that. I think it would be really cool. Andy runs the tech side of things. Even when he's on stream, he's usually the one running the tech for us. If I'm not on camera, I'm usually modding the chat. So with regular game, then yeah, definitely we can 100% do that. We'll figure out some timing. I hope Andy doesn't mind me volunteering for this. Sorry, Andy. What do we think? How do we feel about him? I'm feeling much, much better than I was about him when I started. You're on board? Yeah, we had no RPG of the month this month. That was really sad. I'm 100% on board with doing test runs on camera. Like I said, Andy usually runs the tech side of things, and when I'm not on camera, I run the chat. I mod the chat and make sure that people are being chill. Especially for something involving like mental health and mental and emotional wellness, I would want to make sure that the chat was not a hot mess. But yeah. Alright, so that's my Deathclaw. I'm actually incredibly pleased with how he looks now. Here he is. I'm trying to get him as far away from the camera as possible so it's in focus. I may do like one last wash over him. I may thin down some Nuln Oil and do one last wash over him. Maybe a gray wash on him. I may have to borrow some gray, but I think he's looking pretty good, and I'm pretty happy about that. This definitely looks better with a wash on it than it did. So I'm not happy with the Super Mutants right now. We'll deal with the Super Mutants later. I'll play with them some other time. He's done. Let's get these doggos looking back into shape. I feel bad about abandoning the Super Mutants today, though. Thinking. Completed in 1 or 2 sessions. Yeah, that sounds really good. Because then you're not sort of tied down to a long-term campaign, and that's a lot easier to hand out to other people to like spread. I think that's a good idea. It keeps you flexible, which is good. not sure how I want to fix this. Yeah, to run in a single session. Yeah, that sounds good. That sounds like a really good idea to have sort of something built in to do when some players aren't there. Because there's a whole host of, like, life gets in the way reasons for, you know, someone being out. As well as, like, I just can't do this today reasons. There's definitely a greenish cast to a lot of these guys. So we're gonna do a little bit of a green dry brush over them. Let me get my cruddy brush. A little too green. A lot less glaring. I need to work on their mouths a little bit. But yeah, that's got a lot more of the greenish cast to it that mutant hounds have. This one I'm actually really happy with in general. I don't think I need to do a ton of work on it. I am very excited about your idea. I want to see it work. This is T45? No, this is T60. Yeah, it's T60 armor. I don't love that they've got the little Brotherhood emblem on the front because it's molded in, but it's not molded in very distinctly. And it's not in the actual armor that you get from the Brotherhood, it's painted on. Definitely, mostly this is a shadowed steel job. Shadowed steel, of course, being the bottle that is a pain and clogged up and that I hate. No, we'll do it in little bits. I'm going to use my old cruddy brush for this because I'm going to be slapping it on. This is just going to be a base coat of this stuff because this really is the right color for this. The Brotherhood's armor. So we have this set up at home where my Xbox is plugged into our TV in our bedroom, and Andy uses a monitor we have with his computer because his computer doesn't otherwise have a monitor. Unfortunately, our television in the bedroom is not very great resolution, and it's not very big. And I've realized that when I play Fallout on the screen in our bedroom on like my TV, it gives me a headache because I'm squinting because the resolution isn't great. So I'm getting like eye strain from it, which is a problem. I don't love that. So in order to not do that, I have to use the monitor instead of the TV, but Andy's been using the monitor because he's been playing stuff. And I haven't wanted to interrupt that time, so I haven't been asking to make use of the monitor. Because his other option is to bring his laptop home from the store. The laptop is what we run the chatbot and stuff off of. And use that as the monitor, because it can serve as a monitor. But we've been using it here, so I've been reticent to be like, bring it home so I can play Fallout. No. Maybe I'll move my Xbox into the living room and use the big TV. Despair. I was telling Andy what I want to do. Yeah, we're 100% buying Harry Potter on Sunday. Not this Sunday. Comes out on the 30th, which I believe is Tuesday. I am going to need to pause the stream at some point, Andy, because I need the facilities. So I had a big mug of tea. This bottle is the worst. Oh, look, it's a Game of Thrones song. Pretty sure this is a Game of Thrones song. Sorry, Gav, I'm not a Game of Thrones fan. Love your music. Not a Game of Thrones fan. Fun story about this music. About, like, this music in general. This is Miracle of Sound. This is Miracle of Sound with a guest vocalist. But this is Miracle of Sound. Who is a musician out of Ireland named Gavin Dunn. And he's awesome. Gavin is just a real chill dude, for one, and he makes wonderful music. And he decided a while back that he would allow streamers to use his music, no royalties. You can use it as long as you credit him, which is why we have him credited down below the stream. And we think his stuff is great. Andy and I have liked his stuff for years. We got to hear him live twice when The Escapist ran a couple of conventions. We got to hear him live at both of those, which was very cool. He doesn't do much in the way of live performance. for a couple of different reasons, one of which is health related, but also the fact that he's in Ireland, and because he's been largely internet based, a large amount of his audience is all over the world. So that makes it hard. That makes it very difficult to do like live performances. I know Marion Call is another very internet-based musician that we enjoy. She's also had similar things where she streams concerts, which is very cool. But Gav decided he would prefer to focus on doing music that he could then release to everyone instead of doing live concerts. But we did get to see him live a couple of times, which was very, very cool. He's a good performer. And a couple of weeks ago, maybe like a month ago, one of my coworkers who is a video gamer, who enjoys the video games, and we've sort of connected over that. Sort of, he knows that I also like video games, and there aren't a ton of other gamers on staff. It's a library, we're all readers, but there aren't as many people who are really into video games. They'll play casual games, but they're gamers in the sense that they play games, but they aren't gamers in the sense that they want to like sit around and chat about games. And the games that they're playing aren't necessarily ones that you're gonna have tons of chats about. Just fine. Perfectly fine. The issue then being, if you are someone who loves the video games, connecting with someone who also likes the things that you like. And I think he was a little pleased to find that there was someone else on staff who could talk about video games and board games and stuff like that. Let's give him some skin. But I was chatting with him at one point one day, and he was like, "Oh, hey, I have to show you something." And I was like, "Okay, cool. Like, lay it on me." And he goes, "It's this great musician I found online." And I was like, "Oh, cool. I like a good musicsman." His Miracle of Sound. He's like, "Yeah, he's this guy, Miracle of Sound." And I was like, "Oh, Gav. Yeah, I've met him. He's very cool. I like him. He's neat." He's like, "Wait, what? You what?" I was like, "Yeah, I met him. It's Gav. He's from Ireland. He lives in Ireland. He's very cool. He goes out to a pub, gets drunk, and goes on Twitter and posts like political rants." And then it's like, "Oh, I shouldn't have done that." He's very funny. Yeah. I think Gab gets very angry about American politics. He has a wide and varied fan base, and some of them get a little annoyed at him disparaging someone that they like, and yet they stick around, which he's like, "Yeah, whatever." This man is wearing a very short skirt. He also has a pipe wrench hanging at his belt, so. This actually lists him as being like an enslaved tech. I'm like, what does that even mean? I don't know what that's supposed to mean. But he is basically wearing a loincloth. But yeah, Gav is very fun to follow. I like him. He's a good guy. Andy, it does sound kind of busy down there, but when you get a chance. Yeah, loincloths are very freeing. I really need to use the bathroom.
Good timing.
Excellent, wonderful. I'll be right back. Loincloths are very freeing. You recommend people try them? I'm back. I'm back. We're gonna keep painting this guy's skin. I went with a tan skin for him because I feel like when you're running around the wasteland in only a loincloth, you probably have a tan. Goodness knows you're out in all elements all the time, so your skin would be a little weathered.
is, it doesn't make sense for this guy to be, like, enslaved, because usually when you're talking about enslaved characters in Fallout, which does have, like, I mean, Fallout 4 has the whole, what's the name of that settlement that's just slavers? I hate them, and I usually kill them. But you can get, like, collars from them to collar other people, and they send you on jobs to go do that. And you can do that in Nuka World as well. The Nuka World add-on, or DLC, has the ability to go enslave people, which I decline to do, because I don't truck with that sort of thing. But I know it has the option, and therefore, like, I know that that's a thing in the Fallout world. Wow, that paint was really... I got way too much water in that. But they're not just, like, running around in bondage harnesses. They got collars on. That's the whole thing. And this dude isn't wearing a collar. Like, Nuka World does have, like, a whole bunch of enslaved, like, traders and stuff. My personal... I love the Nuka World DLC. Like, I had so much fun. Far Harbor is a better story. There's a lot going on in Far Harbor, and I think the narrative portion of Far Harbor is definitely more satisfying and complete as a written piece. Far Harbor. Why would you want to go there? But Far Harbor is definitely more narratively complete and interesting than Nuka World. That said, God, Nuka World's fun. Far Harbor's great. I loved it. But I also was terrified walking around the island. And that's the point. Like, that's 100% intentional. The atmosphere of the island, of never knowing what's going to just come up out of the fog, that's 100% what they want. That was Bethesda saying, we want this whole environment to feel oppressive. We want this environment to feel... We want you to be nervous walking around, because this island is deadly. This island is super dangerous. The fog hides all sorts of super dangerous things. There are creatures in here, the likes of which you have not seen. Like, that's all very intentional. None of that is an accident. That being said, yeah, Far Harbor is definitely a more complete story. It's a more interesting, engaging story to me. Oh god, yeah, I know. I'm trying to catch some, like, bald spots that I know would then require, like, even extra cover. A couple of times, like, I'll go over it and I'll be like, I can see a little black there that I know is gonna bug me when I go back over it again. Yeah, oh, he's gonna need multiple coats of this. That's just how this is. I'm just trying to get in the little crevices so that I don't have, like, glaring black spots. Because, like, he has this harness on that's molded in, and I don't want there to be a whole lot of black left on the edge of the harnesses, because I want to be able to paint over that later, but I want it filled in. Yeah, he's definitely going to need multiple coats. It's the downside to priming in black is not bad. Ah, haha, yes, under his arm. Pre-shade some models for me? I wouldn't say no. So Allie has an airbrush now. Did you hear about that? She's been quite enjoying it. You taught her, you know what, I should have known that you were the one who taught her how to use it. She's been really enjoying it. She's been really enjoying having it. And I am quite glad that she has it. I'm glad for her. There we go. All right. That's some decent coverage. Nice.
I want... So yeah, when I play the Nuka World expansion, usually I'll clear out all of the various sections of the park with Gage, and I kill them. Kill the raiders. Yeah, I'm really happy that Allie's doing okay. Where's that page I found that was basically just page after page after page of outfits from Fallout? Because it was really good. It was such a good resource. What the heck did I do with that link? She pre-shades? Yeah. I never learned how to do that. So...
find it. God, the pack wears some ugly colors. Thrilling content, sorry. Yeah, I would think it would be tough to do with just the big spray cans. There is some ugly stuff. That's fine. I like the postal uniform. Oh, that's a weird outfit. That one I need. That's the hooded rags. That I know I'm gonna need because this guy here is definitely wearing the hooded rags outfit. That's what that is. I'm just wondering exactly like what he's supposed to be wearing. Excuse me. Whole list of hats. Yeah. Super mutant stuff. I really don't know. Oh well. Yeah. That's it. Found it. It's a Fallout 3 outfit. Okay. Okay, it's from the pit. That makes sense. The harness and stuff, because it's got this like strap across here. This is the tattered slave outfit from the pit. So we're gonna do oiled leather as his the skirting. Here's my oiled leather. I know you're in here. There it is. It's actually not as dark as I want it to be. Let's do... let's do a mahogany brown on his skirt. At least to start with. What should I have for dinner tonight? Painful watching me paint over black primer. Yeah, well. I am not fancy. This paintbrush is bugging me. It's got a stray hair. You feel my pain? Yeah. Honestly, I'm not as much in pain over the, there it is. I had my Swiss Army, there it is. I had a Not so much the pain of painting over the black, it's figuring out what colors I want to use. Sounds like a good plan. My Swiss Army knife scissors work just fine. I just have to get the brush hair like separated out, because it wasn't separated out like when I was just looking at the brush. It was separating out as I was painting. It was pulling. Sort of getting caught on texture. Yeah, I tend to use it for a couple of reasons. One, because it's readily available, and doesn't require me to do anything special. Two, because frequently the figures that I'm painting are starting out a fairly light color, and like the Fallout figures, I don't really want to prime them white, because I don't want the colors to pop. Because they're, yeah, like this guy, perfect for that. This guy, not so much. On the other hand, white makes colors pop a lot more, and like when I want a nice dirty figure, I don't necessarily want the colors popped. When I'm going dark with the colors, I don't necessarily want it white. And if the figure's already gray, I don't want to prime in the same color that the figure already is, because I don't want to be. I want to know where the primer didn't take. Yeah, you're probably right. The other issue was Andy had a can of white primer that he used that totally borked the figures he was using. And as fancy as an airbrush would be, and as much as I might like to learn how to use one, I don't have a spot for it. My apartment is a lot smaller than Allie's condo. I wouldn't necessarily want to just keep it here. Also, I don't know how well it would stream, or if the noise from it would be prohibitive. Yeah, make Derek get one for the store. That's gonna happen. Yeah, invest in my talent. Letting me use your paints isn't enough. This really is a very dark brown harness that he's wearing. More shaking. I am probably going to shut down in maybe 10 minutes or so whenever Andy can get up here. It's about 4:30 now, and I've been going for a few hours. I spent a good chunk of yesterday with a very nasty headache, and I'd rather not do that to myself today, especially since we have to stream again later. metal ring, like the ring right there, is going to end up being metal. And show up and let me play with the airbrush? I mean, I wouldn't say no. I would certainly do that. I would love to learn how to use it, even if I don't have one to play with. I would love to have that skill in my repertoire. I don't know if Andy heard my plan to shut down soon-ish. But I'll repeat it. So yeah, I think I'll shut down. Yeah, I would love it. Yeah, I think I'm gonna shut down now. Not work my eyes into a headache. But I feel like this guy. I'm real happy. I'm really happy.
So good on the project. In fact, I have to look at it now that you've done some touch-ups.
Yeah. I'm really happy with how he's coming out. He's pretty much done at this point, aside from the base. I'll revisit the Super Mutants the next time I do this.
You wanted to do the bases for these guys?
No, you can do the bases for these guys. So I'm going to keep painting these. Next week, though, is Extra Life.
Extra Life. 7
Which
days to go.
means I'm off on Saturday, but I'm off on Saturday, and as of noon, Extra Life is starting, which means we're going to be gaming up here, not painting. So I may do some painting when things quiet down a bit.
Yeah.
Like maybe I'll take some time and do some painting. But next week's stream is mostly going to be games, and then waffles in the wee small hours of the morning.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you have a chance to pop by, please do. If you don't, that's cool. Maybe we'll see you in the chat. But I will be here. Andy will be here. A whole lot of other people will be here. Some of our regular stream buddies will be here. Some of the people who've never been on our stream will be here. We're going to have a good time. We're going to play some stuff.
Yeah.
We're going to play a whole bunch of games, including Mars Golf, which I'm really excited about.
Definitely.
We're gonna flip cards at each other. It's going to be great. But yeah, I would love to play with the airbrush at some point. That would be super cool. Let me know. And get in touch with us about the RPG thing, because we would definitely love to help out with that.
All right.
So yeah.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.